Do you know that you can deploy your Angular application and your Azure function in one place? Yes, it is. There was a service called Azure Static Web App where you can deploy any UI, whether it is Angular, React, Vue, any vanilla HTML pages with your Azure function. Yes, it is. Today we are gonna see how you need to deploy and stuff with our existing repository. So let's jump in. This is my repository ng Angular best practices. This repository was used for all in Angular best practices series where you can see on my channel's playlist. So this is a repository where it is already deployed in as a SPA application, which is static web app in the Azure. So this is my static web app. So currently this is serving on the Angular best practice.in. So this all are the informations. Okay, so what we are going to do is, I have a use case here. Previously, for getting the configurations from the dynamically using the 12-factor app implementation, I used config.json, this kind of stuff, where this file will be accessed via dot slash file as it is available in the asset. I am accessing this JSON on the API endpoint. So what we are going to do is, so we are going to implement an API configurations here, where from the API it is going to fetch all the configurations for my applications via API Azure function. So it's simple. So we have few things you have to consider. First, I am using the IDE VS Code. First, you have to install the static web app extension here, so which I already installed. Static web app, this is the static web app you have to get installed. This is the first one. So second one, so have a handy application where you can have a use case specifically. It's not like that you have to implement. No, this is the use case which I am actually using, so that's why this repository I've chosen. Okay, so next thing what you have to do is Control P, where you have to go for static web app create HTTP function. There was two type of options available on the static web app on Azure function. One is managed, another one is bring your own code. On the managed, you can only pull HTTP trigger, nothing else. Okay, on the other side you have to go for standard hosting option, and you can bring whatever you need had in your Azure function into it. Okay, so this is like very simple. I'm gonna use only HTTP trigger. See, Azure static web app create HTTP function. It's not, if I already have a Azure function also, you should not create this one. No, it should be static web app create HTTP function. And there was one more thing we have to consider. Better go with JavaScript, not with TypeScript, C#, Python. If you are familiar, you can go, because you have to do the build options and you have to specify pre-configuration before all configuration has to be after deployment. There was a deployment issue which is there. If you are till end, I will show you what's the issue I faced. Okay, on the JavaScript, just go to JavaScript, don't select the modern M4 which have some concerns. So I will share it that also once the deployment is done. So on MV model v3 type of option, I am gonna get config. That's it. So it will create the .api folder inside my repository, and it will get the function, everything. You don't need to consider anything on it. Everything, it will get all informations on your side. So what I am doing is, I already have a preset, so I'm just gonna copy few configurations from here. It's better copy the entire code. This is the last. This I'm just gonna copy, and I'm gonna paste it here. So this is done, and this indexing is not needed. So I just copied all the configuration. You can see here, this is literally the same which was on the config file, env, firebase, this stuff. Okay, all these configurations was been here. Simple. I just moved all the configurations config.file to my local settings.json, which is easy. I just pushed it. So next thing what I am gonna do is this is my Azure function to get all these configurations via API, as because this is a static web app, man. So if on there was a practice called 12 factor app implementation, I will add that on description below, so you can check what all you have to check for a deployment of applications. Okay, so there was 12 factors on it. Okay, so this is done. I am just gonna have my time. I already have some timestamps. Timestamp is a very good feature. I just when makes it easy. What I'm gonna do is just gonna entirely copy it, and I'm just gonna paste it here. So what you can see, process.env, firebase, all this configuration I'm getting from the this variable and pushing it here, which is at any point of time. The main concern on Angular is you have to build each and every time. If you have these kind of options where you can just put and plug the variables if needed on the initial stat. If you can see here on my Angular, on my app module, there was a app initializer. If you have to know what this, I will add that video also on description below, so you can check how this app initializer works. So here I'm just gonna service. This is the JSON file which I'm talking about. What I'm gonna do is /API/get config. And one more thing, what are all the variables, if it has the JSON, it will show up, give if it is boolean, it directly give the boolean, but for my case it won't be like that. What I'm gonna do is true, which makes this is the boolean configuration which I already have. I'm just gonna copy and paste it here. Okay, so on code side this is done, on API side this is done. Then you have to check, you have to build this application to test it locally. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is my repository. What I will do is npm run build. So meanwhile I will explain you certain things, the constants I said right on deployment. So why it's happening? So on the basis of deployment, first you have to take care of these configuration files, this environment variables file. So you should not have any environment variables here, and it has some predefined variables already exist on the Azure function if you are initiating. Okay, which is like you don't not specify the web storage, you should not specify the function runtimes. Okay, and these all are predefined variables you should not use. Okay, and you need to only whatever when you are creating Azure function, the variables you should not use it. Okay, that's the first key point. On the second one, what I need to do, I have to show you right on deployment. You have to make sure these variables is not there. And the second thing which I faced the issue, right, this is insights for you. The first was in deployment, the second is running it local. For running it local, you have to make sure that /API was currently configured, and you have to make sure all the informations which has been there. You should not have any new variables or exclude any variables. And the second one is like if you are developing your API with C# or Python or on TypeScript, okay, you have to make sure you make the build better. And if you are using C# and Pythons, make sure you consume the actual environment variable after the Azure function get initiates. Okay, there was some few open issues over there, and you have to address it. And one third point is, I said right, you have to use M3 instead of M4. Actually M4 having some indexing policies over there, okay, which hesitates on deployment. It's better make sure you use, if it is a plain simple API, most probably if you are going to consume on the SPA, better make it simple, some configuration, some APIs and some stuff. Okay, that's it. So now my build has got completed. So what I will do is, there was a command called npx. You have to install static web app CLI. Okay, so I will get one sec, let me pull that one. So no, sessions 2024, and these all are my scripts. Oh, bad. Okay, this is the CLI, better install. Okay, let me big this up. Hope this is visible for you. This is you have to install it, which is a static web app CLI for me to run this folder. Okay, close it off to run this. Okay, so then based, you have to make it install and you have to make the build. The static web app only runs on the build list files, not on development. So make sure you build your Angular application and start testing on it. Okay, fine. So that's on here. So as my dist file participants go to directly dist file, I'm specifying start the dist hyphen my API location where it is API. Okay, and if you have any other APIs, if you want to test, you can just create a new folder and stuff. Okay, it's not specific, you can just have any folder name with the API. Okay, once this is done, if you click enter, this will go fine. So meanwhile, we will go to the GitHub workflow where it was deployed automatically via GitHub workflow. You already see this is if you are not familiar with this GitHub workflow deployment. Okay, so I will add I think I have a deployment option how to make it, that I will add it in the descriptions below. Okay, so here this is my API where I have to display /API. That's it. Let me check my timeline before what I have done. So it is /API. That's good. Close all the saves. It's /API. So now my application is got running. It's running in the port of 482280. Let me open up the Chrome and check it's working. This local host 4280, where you can see. Okay, let me refresh the page. You can see there was a configuration which is called 4280 API /get-config. What actually is happening here, right? On the front-end application, there was one thing which is called proxy, which is like serving the API which from other ports. There was some options. So I have done in some React application where it needs to connect with the development server of my API, where both will be on a different ports, but it will be able to consume that one service. So that's the mechanism which is used in the static web app. Okay, you can see my application API is get exposed, and this is the repository for the my serving front end, and this is the repository for the API and it's serving. You can see here whenever I'm making API call to config, it shows up here and it initiates what is actually happening. So let me go and change the local settings or JSON to see the to API instead of update. It won't change, you have to stop it and you have to serve it again. So it checks the workflows, checks the informations, check the details. Now if I refresh, it's running in local. You can see they have updated it. I never touched the actual artifacts. It changed it from the Azure function itself. So that's how it works. If you are still here, I have one more tip for you. Two. Okay, let me get two. First, there was I said there was other options to bring your own code, right? This is for you. So you have to switch to the standard. I have still now worked on the managed. You can switch to standard and you can bring your own code, which is you can get your durable functions, triggers, everything. And one more thing is like once you enable this option, okay, enable this option, there was an API where you can directly map any Azure functions to here. So that's for another video. So how to bring your own functions into this Azure static web app. So now we already done it. So what I have done is I already pre-deployed one artifacts over here. So you can see here the whatever the code which I done, which is already got deployed here. This is the Azure function, you can see. And better see, I will show you my PR, so which makes easy for you. Where this is the PR which I am talking about, which was deployed few minutes before. So here I just added up a static web app configurations on the files, and I have added the function which is like this information and the local settings and stuff, packagings and all the stuff. And in the Azure function I added a SPA with local, so you can use npx with a command whatever, or you can have some runtime batch run commands. So here what I have done is I, instead of this previous one, I have used /apa/config and I added true here, which I done in the showcased, and I added this file, which is, even if I refresh the page, you showed is seen, right? If I refresh the page, showing comes up like this. For this I have added that file. So you can see, let's go here, Angular best practices. Let me copy this URL. This is the host URL for me, and let me open up dev console, and if I enter, you can see the same config comes up here with prod-API, Firebase false, these and tokens and stuff. You can see prod-API. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna environment variable. Click the env names, updated, okay, and I'm gonna save it. That's it. Now my Azure function will automatically refresh whenever I change the configurations. Okay, so if I go and refresh, API updated. So it seems like we done added Azure API, and we updated it. We updated the configurations, getting from the Azure function configs and making changes, deployed it here. So let me show the deployment pipeline also for you. And this repository is fully accessible, and you can just go type Lakshman Shah ng Angular best practice, you can able to bring here. So this is the pipeline. So first it happens to be checking out the code, then I am doing some using the same static web app deployment task, where it first npm gets the base image. Let me, okay, this is me visible for you. So first it gets the all informations, then builds my actual front end and my backend. As for backend JavaScript, and it builds the ng prod, For backend, I'm using JavaScript. It's like directly code deploy the code. If it is a TypeScript or other stuff, you have to build it and then you have to make sure that artifact finds up. Okay. So where it starts deploying with nodes and at last this is how it is. So I will share you some other stuff also. Let me zoom out a bit. So I previously faced some issues, man. So it's open. So what actually happened is like I added all the configurations here and I'm trying to deploy, which was got failed like this. If you are getting this like failed to deploy Azure function, that's what I say. You have to get rid of all the environment variables better before deployment. If you want to have these environment variables on the deployment, in the Azure Static Web App, you can just go set up the envs and that's it. Simple. So where you can directly once deployment it goes up. So that's on the static web app side and deployment and with the API. So you don't need to create two services. One is enough for you. Let me summarize the thing. The first thing what you have done is we created a static web app which already that I should stored up. The next thing is we created the API on our existing SPA applications. So then we made a configurations such a way that my configurations will be pulling up from the Azure function instead of my existing config JSON files. Then we deploy that applications on a pipeline, so it goes into the static web app, and I have shown you some tips and tricks and what the issues I faced while deploying this first time on the API to the Azure to the static web app. So these are the key summaries where you have to take care. And one more thing is you have to make sure you run applications on the hobby on the personal, so you won't get billed for your application and the API as well. Okay, so that comes up to the end. So please try deploying your static web app as well as your Azure function in one place, so you can manage your APIs as well as your SPAs, which is more dependent, which is highly cohesive, highly tightly coupled. You have to make sure those APIs directly binds into your front-end application deployment pipelines. Okay, so that comes up. So if you are still here, thank you for being watching patiently, and this is Lakshman from stable&scale. So for new updates and stuff, we'll be check out my channel stable&scale and click the bell notification on so you won't miss out any new videos. So we'll be coming up a lot and lots of information with lots of people who will be gonna join us to share their experience also, so don't miss out. Okay, that's it from my end. I am Lakshman signing off.